When they ask me who I am, I tell them I am Chinese. When the stained white walls in a small hospital in Shenzhen were the first words that slipped from my mouth were "Mama." 我是一个土生土长的中国孩子。I tell them I am Chinese because wooden chopsticks lay gently on porcelain bowls at home, left in silence until Grandpa and Grandma begin eating. Because each and every year, I touch my forehead to the cold wooden floor, bowing deeply before receiving red packets. I tell them I am Chinese for no other reason than the color of my skin, unmistakably yellow. I grew up in a typical Chinese family with my mom from Beijing and my dad from Henan, for those of you who don't know geography well. And growing up, Chinese was my mother language. Now, of course, despite all of us liking to claim that the stories of traditional Chinese kids in mainstream media aren't real, they really were for me. And I grew up remembering multiplication tables, my fellow Asians know this well, receiving red packets on the best holiday ever where you get free money, and of course, the quintessential Chinese trait, eating dumplings. But all of this would change at the age of 2. I'll take you with me. I'm 2 years old and I've just enrolled at the local nursery. My parents have come to pick me up on a sunny Friday afternoon. They wait in front of heavy glass doors under the blazing sun. Then all of a sudden, I come rushing out of the front door, tears streaking across my eyes. For minutes, they couldn't figure out what was wrong. There was nothing on my face. I hadn't been bruised nowhere. They couldn't figure it out. Yet when their gaze finally fell onto my left leg, right here, they found nothing other than a pile of poop. Yes, poop. I pooped my pants because my local school teachers had not allowed me to go to the bathroom. But you laugh. It was in that very moment, with poop smearing down the side of my left leg, that would change my life forever. The next week, I was placed in an international school. As you guys can see, big advertisement, yes. And safe to say, there are plenty of bathroom breaks here, or at least I hope so. But all jokes aside, going to international school introduced a completely new dynamic and culture into my life that would change many things. At home, I began questioning more. Questions like, why does grandma always eat first? Questions like, why should I burn this smelly stick and bow? And questions like, there's smoke coming out of this. Are you sure we shouldn't call the fire department? And all of these questions, despite seemingly insignificant, were representative of a paradigm shift in my thinking. And at the age of 3, I became the strictest advocator of 3 things: equality, freedom, and curiosity. I know, it sounds grand. But to your 3-year-old, equality was eating the same number of chicken wings as his brother. Freedom was going out to play instead of doing his math homework. And curiosity was asking tons, and I mean tons of annoying questions. And safe to say, as you may expect, all of these things came into direct conflict with my Chinese culture. And as I grew up older and older, I grew increasingly resistant of the rules and regulations of the Chinese culture in my mind. And in my mind at that time, I thought Chinese culture was full of conventions because it wasn't free, it wasn't equal, and I wasn't able to ask those annoying questions to my parents. And with that being said, growing up, as I moved through middle and high school, I grew increasingly distant from the Chinese culture, moving out of Chinese class into French. And at the age of 15, as a Chinese person born and raised, I couldn't even put my own home address onto a piece of paper. Yes, I had been so distant with my own culture that I could barely write the language. And Chinese looked a lot like this. I know, it causes a headache. But all this was caused because I was so resistant against my own culture. So when they asked me who I was again, I could never tell them a true answer, stuck always between the awkward rut of Canadian Chinese or Chinese Canadian. Yet no matter what order I put them in, it never felt quite right. So when they ask me who I am again, I tell them I am international. Because here, languages swirl like leaves on an autumn day. Red, yellow, and orange, mixed with cultures from thousands of miles away, and every day is autumn. I tell them I am international because I was taught to constantly question, to always think in other perspectives, to step into other people's shoes, until the shoes I stepped into piled high like mountains. I tell them I am international, by my capacity to speak 3 languages, and my openness to diverse ideas and new cultures. Yet when they ask me who I really am, Chinese or international, I tell them I don't know. And this identity crisis is one faced by countless multilingual and multicultural people from all over the world. I was stuck in a dichotomy because I had told myself that being Chinese meant certain things, that it meant, yes, getting 100% on every single math test and never speaking back to your parents. And that being international, on the other extreme side, meant constantly questioning that everything was equal. And it was exactly those characteristics that placed me into a box. And this box of defining characteristics made me increasingly resistant and made me increasingly distant from the Chinese culture. And today, I come with a new realization that has helped me break out of this box and I hope can help all of you. And my realization is this, that cultural identity cannot be defined by a single word, because culture is interconnected, it's unique, it's full of diverse ideas of languages, cultures, and characteristics that come from thousands of places from all over the world. And I want to show you this by showing first a few stereotypes and show how some of our most prominent cultural labels are not actually grounded in reality. First, I'm coming for you Canadians. Are Canadians really nice? The golden question. We might think they are. However, according to science, PhD candidate Daniel Schmidt and researcher Byron Smith-Jella, there's actually no science behind the fact that Canadians are nicer than any other person. I'm sorry, it's the truth. The only reason why it may seem so is because of a self-fulfilling prophecy or word choice. And next, I'm coming for you Chinese people. Are Chinese people really good at math? It turns out not always either. In 2016's Guizhou entrance exam, 80% passed language, 30% passed the English portion, and only 8% passed the math portion. I see the shocked expressions of all our Asian parents in the room. But yes, only 8% passed math. So next time you come to me, call me a language genius, not a math one. But of course, all jokes aside, as we can see, some of the most prominent cultural labels that we place upon ourselves are often not even based in reality. They're just distortions of what we think society has imposed upon us. In fact, for all our lives, we're told that this is the puzzle of cultural identity, and we should fit in like that. However, the reality is that our puzzle pieces look a little more like this. I know, not perfect, but it is perfect in the way that all of us have our own twists and curves and edges that make us all different. And today, I want to bring you onto a path to discover what your true cultural identity is. And the first step is to attempt to truly understand your culture. For a second, ask yourself, what defines your culture? What characteristics come to mind when I say the words cultural identity? And most importantly, why do those traits come to mind? Growing up, my resistance of the Chinese culture was built from my lack of understanding, because all I was surrounded by was ancient poems and difficult vocabulary. And because of that, my understanding of it was a dull, useless, and boring place. Yet by traveling in the past year to countless Chinese cities, immersed in thousands of years of beautiful culture, arts, history, and music, I understood that there was so much more beauty and common ground between me and the Chinese culture. That it didn't always represent getting 100% on every single test. Instead, it was so much more. So for yourself, ask yourself, what defines your perception of cultural identity? And how much do you really know? Next time, take the chance to renew your understanding. It can be as easy as grabbing that book from the shelf you always wanted to read, going online to click on a new article, or even traveling out of these very doors, past the commercial malls, yes, past all the shopping, and into the old town. I guarantee you'll find more about your culture and other cultures than you will ever have imagined. And the second step is to have the courage to have important conversations. Oftentimes, our misunderstanding and our confrontation can come from our fear of wanting to talk about sensitive issues. Too often, it's easy to say, yeah, my parents are wrong. They can't tell me to do homework, and it's all because of my stupid Chinese identity. Yet in reality, when you're able to step down and truly have those conversations, when you're able to truly ask them why they want you to speak Chinese or do well in school, then we can truly find a middle ground. For me, I understood that my parents didn't just want me to get 100% on every single test. Instead, they wanted me to learn Chinese culture to be able to truly understand my history and build a future here. So the next time you sit down with your parents and friends, have the courage to have those sensitive conversations. Talk about traditions, cultural norms, and beliefs. I guarantee you, your parents aren't all as bad as they seem. In fact, they might have more in common with you than you think. And the last and final step, bear with me, is to approach your own identity. After you've had all those important conversations and have moved through all your different renewing of your knowledge, it's time for you to approach your own identity. And this time, understand that you no longer have to be defined by a single word, not Chinese or international, Chinese or Canadian, Black or white. Because culture is interconnected and unique, and you can choose from your characteristics, ideas, and values from thousands and dozens of different cultures to define what truly makes you, you. So when they ask me who I am again, I tell them that I cannot be defined by a single word. Because I am both international and Chinese, both respectful and equal, both traditional and free. 同时爱着世界的文化和传统的中国。Because they are not mutually exclusive. One second. I tell them that I can define my own culture, and all of you can too. Thank you.